You're listening to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast.
When your heart is aching and your world is shaking, don't give up. No, don't give up.
Hello and welcome to Oh My Health, There Is Hope podcast. I'm your host, Janice Short. And today our very special guest is Lauren Keller. Lauren graduated with an MA in clinical psychology from Pepperdine University, as well as an MS in nursing from Emory University. She is a licensed nurse practitioner and certified nurse midwife. Lauren spent 7 years of her life working in hospitals throughout the US, delivering babies and providing GYN care to underserved populations. However, in 2013, everything changed. She became extremely ill with a mysterious diagnosis. Finally, after 1 year or 1.5 years of searching for answers, she was diagnosed with chronic Lyme's disease, POTS, and mold toxicity. She ultimately found wellness through detoxification methods, brain retraining. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to hear about all of this, and integrative medicine. The process of getting diagnosed and finding wellness again made her take a hard look at Western healthcare systems and made her realize that they were only treating symptoms and not people. This sparked her journey into integrative medicine as well as mind-body medicine. I am fascinated, Lauren, like really fascinated, because a lot of people I've interviewed, including myself, are on parallel paths with Western medicine. So I love that you're here. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So one of the things we ask all of our guests to do is to share a story of hope. And so I'm going to put you on the hot seat. And do you want to share your story of hope with us?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. And I think it's important to share stories of hope like you're doing, because, people hit rock bottom and they feel like there is no hope. And so hopefully my story and other people's story can give them that. Basically, I was a really well functioning, I was eating organic and doing all the quote unquote right things. And in 2013, I just literally woke up one day and felt like I had the flu and thought, oh, I'm just coming down with something. And 2 weeks passed, a month passed, 3 months passed, and I just kept getting more and more and more symptoms. To the point where I was really debilitated. I was sleeping 20 hours a day. I couldn't get out of bed. I was having fainting episodes, shortness of breath, muscle cramping, like difficulty swallowing, you name it. I probably had that symptom at one point. And I kept going from doctor to doctor, searching for answers. What is wrong with me? I was, doing yoga and eating organic and living this beautiful life, to now I'm basically in bed all the time, can't swallow food, feel horrible every single day that I wake up. And nobody had answers for me. I had every scan, every blood work, everything you could get, I had it done. And finally, all the doctors just said, well, you probably just have anxiety and depression. And I was like, okay, this is not anxiety and depression. This is insanity. So I realized I wasn't going to be getting answers in Western medicine. And so I just started reading. I started reading journal articles in PubMed. I started listening to conferences on different chronic illnesses. And I found a doctor who ultimately diagnosed me with Lyme disease, and then a whole host of other issues that followed that. And it took me about 5 years to really get back to full health. And it was a huge mountain to climb, with detox efforts every day, always changing supplements, doing IV protocols, and then eventually getting into mind-body medicine and really focusing on meditation, breath work, grounding, basically just parasympathetic activities to calm down my overwhelmed system. And if it wasn't for integrative medicine, I think I maybe wouldn't be here today. So
we have a lot of people who come on and talk about integrative medicine, but I don't think that people are really comfortable or familiar with that term. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what your idea of integrative medicine is?
Yeah, so it's basically a bridge between, standard Western medicine and lots of different sort of more Eastern medicine modalities. So it could be everything from detoxification modalities to Ayurveda to homeopathy, herbs, supplements. And so it's just really a blending of the best of both worlds.
I love it. And by the way, that was my journey. Like I said, you parallel so many people that come on this show and talk about first struggling to get a diagnosis, then getting a diagnosis and struggling, to get control of their health and wellness. And I feel as though when I first, at the age of 50, got online and started looking for alternative options, I had never heard of half of the stuff that's going on in the natural world. And yet it's been around since the beginning of time. It was always at my disposal. I had no idea.
Yeah. I think that's the real crime, that we're just sort of indoctrinated into this one method, this one path. And when it doesn't work, people feel lost or like there are no other options. And there are so many options. I mean, I am constantly learning new methods, new modalities to help people that couldn't be helped before. And so it's unfortunate that, it's a very small percentage of people that are able to, get outside of that Western system and find healing elsewhere. And I wish more people had more access.
And I like people to understand that it's not a magic pill. There's nothing magically. Your journey to get to where you're at right now took 5 years. I still, every day, it's still part of my journey to keep taking control of my wellness. And so it's not an overnight thing, especially when it's holistic. I think holistic is beautiful for supporting the body. It's what it's meant to do, but it's not a quick fix by any means.
No, it's definitely not a quick fix. And the funny thing, I think we're just indoctrinated with this idea that you take a pill and the symptom goes away. And it actually doesn't really work that very well in Western medicine either. And so we think, okay, holistic healing, I'm going to take this supplement, for 1 month and it's just all magically going to get better. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. And I think people give up too quickly.
I remember I had a box. This is no joke. I wish I had taken a picture of it, but it was before my journey. I had a box of medicine that I had to take, and I'm allergic to so many things. So after I would take it for a few days, you're like, no, you can't take that. So it was just piling up all these things, and now I take one thing, and it's because I have a blood clot disorder and I get pulmonary embolism. So I have to take Lovenox injections twice a day, but I take nothing else. And I'm pretty sure there's probably something holistic I could do, but if it doesn't work, my option is throwing a clot and not being here. So I choose to, I'm so grateful for Western medicine, right? For things like that, for sure. And I've gotten off of all statins, everything. I was able to get off them. By the way, this is so important. And I know you advocate this. I did not get off one thing without my doctor's supervision, without going to him and saying, look, this is not my dream to be on all these drugs. I would like to have you help me wing off of these. And we did regular blood works. I, got to a nutritionist, and my journey led me off of everything with my doctor's supervision.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're dealing with medication, you need people that can do medication management. Right. Your nutritionist should not be weaning you off of heart medications. And the hope, what I wish for more people is that more Western medicine folks were willing to kind of bridge that gap and work with more holistic minded folks so that we could get people to reach optimum wellness. And fortunately, I find so often that a lot of these physicians just say, oh, food doesn't matter, or taking this supplement is a bad idea, or whatever. And I'm just like mind blown that, still in 2021, we're saying food doesn't matter. But yeah, people are getting off of their medications every single day. I literally see it every single day. And so I wish there was more collaboration between the two.
I wish there was too, and I'm not quite sure why we're not even given an option. So if I am pre-diabetic, they're going to probably diagnose me pre-diabetic and give me metformin. That's like the standard. Horrible drug to be on for long-term. And there's no option. Like, you're pre-diabetic. What if we send you to a nutritionist, recheck your blood in 6 months and see if you're turning the curve? But nope, the first thing they do is prescribe a drug.
Yep. Agreed. It's the same with everything. Oh, you have multiple sclerosis. There's no options for healing that. And so here's a medication to control the symptoms. You have irritable bowel syndrome. Here's a medication to control the symptoms, but we don't actually have a cure or a way out of this disease. And so I wish, there was a way where, if people needed some medications, we had that, but there was a way that we collaborated and communicated so that the patient, who's really the person that we're trying to treat here, can reach ultimate wellness.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like the more we educate each other as the patients, the more we are educated and ask our doctors, the more they have to answer those questions for us and give us those options. But when we go in with, like I did, I'm old school. Like I just turned 60 and I grew up in the generation where your doctor says something, that's what he went to school for. You just do it. There was no questions asked. You just did it. And now I'm learning that it's okay to ask questions and to know what you're putting in your body. And if there is another option, and I feel like the more that we empower ourselves to do that, the more we will change the way medicine is connecting with holistic.
Absolutely. I agree. Empowerment is super important. We're sort of taught, if they're in a white coat, you're right. Just like you said, you do what they say, you don't question it, but it's your body and it's your life, and you're the one that has to live in this body. And so that relationship between you and your medical practitioner is so important. There should be open discussion always, pros and cons, side effects, alternatives. But unfortunately, I find that it just doesn't happen with everybody.
I want to ask you about your health journey. Before I do, I want to ask you this because you worked as an RN. You worked, administering drugs. I was that horrible patient because I have so many drug allergies that if anything's going in my IV, even when I'm really sick, if anything's happening to me, I'm like, what is that? What's it for? Like, is it related to this? I asked all the questions and I got a lot of, you don't need to worry about it. This is what the doctor ordered. And I'm pretty stubborn. I'm that person that's like, well, then I'm not taking it until you tell me what it is. You are not putting that in my IV. And I'm pretty sure it's frustrating. They're just following orders. But how do because let's face it, nurses are your first line of attack, not your doctors, right? They're the ones spending the bulk amount. They're watching the changes in you. I was in the hospital for almost 8 weeks and I got very, they're like family to me. They saved my life. They were there when I was scared. They were, they came in and held my hand at night when I felt like I'm not going to make it through this night. And so they're like your first line of attack. So how do we start having a better rapport and relationship with them at our bedside?
I really think it needs to start within the schooling system, because I think even the nurses, the doctors, PAs, nurse practitioners, we're all sort of grown up to, this is the disease and this is the treatment for that disease. And the patient, the less they know, the better. I mean, I sort of even just remember that from being in school, you just kind of do your job and the patient is just, you almost don't even see them necessarily as a whole person, right? It's just, okay, this is the disease we're treating. This is the drugs that we're giving. So I think the whole thing needs an overhaul, from day one of nursing school or medical school. We need to be talking about the patient as a whole person, different options for different diseases, what informed consent truly is, because that's really what they're not giving. And hopefully that changes over time.
I definitely think it will. And by the way, the only way it's going to change is if we speak up, if we start sharing our concerns and we're asking questions and we're not accepting that, don't worry about it. This is what we have to do for this. This is protocol. We're not all sometimes we're zebras. We're not all the what they expect to come in. We're all unique and different. And I feel like we're all zebras, even though yes, the bulk of us will fill into that space. But I think that you're absolutely right. I think it has to do with how we educate the doctors and nurses and how we speak up for ourselves, find our voice in our own healthcare. Do you have children?
I don't.
Here's the thing for women with children who are listening to this. If you look at your kid and something's not wrong, you're not getting the right answers, or they're putting something in their body that you're not comfortable with, we fight. We come out like, oh no, you're not. I'm not leaving here until you tell me what's wrong with my child. You're running them to the next doctor, whatever it is that you have to do to get your baby well. The mama bear comes out in you. why are we not doing that for ourselves? Like,
Yeah.
why are we not fighting for ourselves like we do for those children that we brought into this world? Because that's going to teach them to do the same thing.
Yep. And two, you know, when we're feeling sick or we're having symptoms, that's a huge place of vulnerability. So I think it's important that you always, especially if something really severe is going on, that you bring an advocate with you, you know, whether it's a partner, a spouse, a mother, a father, you bring somebody with you that can advocate for you. Because I think sometimes it's really hard. It's already hard going in and trying to advocate for yourself in front of this, you know, medical professional. And then when you're sick, it's even harder because you're just like, you know, whatever at this point. And so having an advocate there is super important.
I am so glad you brought that up. I think that it's really important that not only do we have an advocate, that they know what our wishes are. So when I was sick, thank goodness my husband's a doctor, and it was easy for him to relay what's going on and to be my voice. Not everybody has that. Or if something wasn't going like it should go, he was right on them. And I was super grateful to have him in my corner, because you're too sick. At some point, I was so sick, I didn't even know what was going on or cared. Like, it was just the days all start running together when you're that sick. So that is such a good point, that you really should have an advocate, and get an advocate now. Like, get that person now. Don't wait until you're sick and you're on your phone trying to get someone to come and quickly telling them what you want.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I really want to know about your journey to wellness and where you went from finally getting that diagnosis. And by the way, one of the things we talk about on the show is you may not ever get a diagnosis. That doesn't mean you can't start your wellness journey, like in whatever that is. So I tell everyone all the time that I almost died 9 years ago. I was told I didn't have any survival rate at all. Like 2 weeks, I'd probably be gone. And yet here I am over 9 years now. I'm still here in the same diagnosis. Nothing changed. I still have the same diagnosis, yet I'm thriving in that. So you don't necessarily have to have a diagnosis to start that wellness journey, start implementing things to help your body support whatever's going on. But I really want to know how you did it.
Yeah. I always say, you know, a diagnosis is just something that Western medicine has given a title to. But symptoms are your body crying out for help that something isn't right. And so sort of my job now when I work with clients is I don't even do a lot of testing, because it doesn't really change a lot, especially in the beginning of a health journey, right? There are foundational things that you must have. You must have good nutrition. You must sleep well. You must have good relationships. You must lower your stress levels in your life. There are sort of basic things that we all require as human beings to function well. And then above that, you work on supporting the body. You support the organs of detox. You support the liver, you support the kidneys, you support the lymphatic system. You exercise to the capacity that you can. You start incorporating some mind-body techniques. And so there are really some basics here that will bring you to another level of health, regardless of what your diagnosis was. So that's what I really love about holistic healing, because we're looking at really how the whole body comes together, how every piece of our life fits into the symptoms that we're experiencing. And it's not just, hey, you have this symptom, and so you have this diagnosis, and this is the one thing you can do for it. There's so many things you can do for it, which is what I love about it.
I think that, again, you hit a really good point. That's so true. And it's like your car, right? If you don't put gas, it doesn't run. If you put gas and you don't fix the brakes on a regular basis, you don't stop. Like, everything is tied together. And so we can't just like, oh, I get great sleep, but I eat horribly. I don't exercise. I don't do anything for my mind, right? And so things start to fall apart when you leave those gaps. So I love that you talk about literally all the pillars it takes to have a healthy relationship or a great, successful wellness journey. What are some tips that maybe you could give people for starting that journey? Because literally, when you meet Lauren or you meet me, you're seeing us at another part of our journey, not the beginning. And honestly, I don't know about you, but for me, it just started with that first step, that very first step. And then I took the next, and then I read more and learned more and took another step. And, oh, wait, I'm not paying attention to like my spiritual side. And that's so important too. And so I just started incorporating more and more. So what would you tell people who are scared and they're sick and they're feeling desperate and they're out there looking for like a magic pill. First of all, you won't find it. They'll sell it to you, but you will not find a magic pill.
Yeah.
What would you tell them if they're like just starting this journey and they're scared?
I would say start with one thing at a time. Just like you're saying, you go on social media or you start reading about holistic health, and it can get very overwhelming very fast because there is a lot of information. When I say I still learn, literally I learn something new every single day. I treat complex chronic illness. Those are the patients that I see now. And so you can't do everything at once. And so you start at the bottom. You start at the bottom of this foundational pyramid. Maybe, your nutrition's not great. And so that's something that you can work on changing over the month. Once you get into a rhythm of that, maybe you work on the next thing. Maybe it's stress management. And so you kind of figure out where your weak areas and start incorporating things one at a time. Because the minute that you're like, okay, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to eat healthy, I'm going to meditate twice a day for a half hour, I'm going to improve my relationships, it doesn't go well because it's too much change all at once. So one thing at a time, one step at a time, keep peeling back the layers. And eventually you're going to look back like you and I are, 5 years from now and say, thank goodness that I started this back then, because now I am where I am now because of that.
Yeah, I'm super grateful where we are in the world today, that we have penicillin, that we have this new vaccine, that we have things to our disposal. But my mindset is if I don't need them and I can keep my body doing what it needs to do, and then should the day come that I need it, I'm grateful that it's there, but I want to give it what it needs to support, to be supportive. And when I got on social media and I first typed in the words desperate for health answers, looking for options so I didn't die, I was blown away with things that have literally been around for centuries. And I honestly, as an educated woman, had no idea were at my disposal or how they worked. It was a brand new world to me. And I know a lot of people are probably thinking that's silly because, I don't know, in my 50s, I didn't know about holistic medicine. I didn't know about food being medicine for your body. I didn't know any of that. I just thought food fueled you, right? It's what you had to do every day to keep it moving and functioning. I didn't know, but what we put in our body mattered.
Yeah. What you put in your body, what you put on your body, the things you're exposed to in your environment, the water you drink, it all matters, and it all adds to a chronic, burden on the body if you're not, quote unquote, doing it well. If you're not eating healthy and you're not using more non-toxic products, then you're just adding to that burden. And so it's just finding little things at a time. Maybe it's changing from non-organic to organic food. Maybe it's choosing to buy your meat local and grass-fed. Maybe it's changing your lotion to one that's not so toxic, doesn't have chemicals or perfumes in it. And you do it slowly. I didn't overhaul my life all in one day, and nobody can.
No, this has been a 9-year journey for me. And
Yeah.
I have this household saying, when you run out, swap out. So if I ran out of a cleaning product, I swapped out for a toxic-free cleaning product. If even when we were doing our gardening, I now use all essential oils on my plants instead of using pesticides on anything that we're gardening. But it didn't happen overnight. And I didn't throw anything away. I mean, there's certain things that really should be thrown away, and I did. But like she was saying about, like, Lauren, when you're talking about the lotions you put on your body, the face creams you're using on your face, women have more thyroid issues than men. And I want you guys just to think about for a minute what we do that men don't. From a young age, we're putting lotions and creams on our neck, on our face. Our skin's an organ. It's absorbing whatever toxins are in that and building up in our system over years. And then pretty soon our system's like, I don't know what this is anymore. I'm not going to function the way I'm supposed to because it's tough.
Yeah.
So 100%. And I just swapped out over 9 years. I don't think there's hardly anything toxic in our house anymore. When we run out of it, like, what can we use that's better for us?
Exactly. That's such a great way to think about it. Absolutely. I love that.
Did I read correctly? Did you talk in your bio about that you did a detoxification during your process, your journey? So I wanted to ask you about that, because my generation, detoxifying was bad. It was like purging your body of everything, good, bad, it's like the good, the bad, the ugly, everything went. And that's not what it means anymore. Like the way people detoxify is so much different. And I think it's so important. It's so important that I do it on a regular basis because I just want to give my body a reset, a break. And so how did that journey work for you?
Yeah. So I tell people, unfortunately, in this day and age, because we are surrounded by so many toxins and chemicals and pesticides and heavy metals, that I think it's become obligatory to do detox in order to remain healthy and not get these quote unquote diseases. So for me, what that looked like was infrared saunas, coffee enemas, which I know might sound weird to some, but it's very supportive of the liver and the microbiome. I did a lot of like dry brushing, castor oil packs, lymphatic massages. And then there's various like devices you can use to drain each organ as well. And so I did that over many, many years. Like it was sort of a consistent routine where I would do infrared sauna 3 days a week, a coffee enema 2 or 3 days a week, dry brushing daily, gua sha on my face and my neck to get at the lymphatics. And so it's more important, you choose things that support each system of the body, and then you stay consistent with it. And now I still do all of those things, but I don't have to do them as often. So I do my sauna like once or twice a week. I'll do a coffee enema like once or twice a month. And these are all now just my preventative medicine, So instead of taking whatever medication, I am now doing all of this stuff to prevent getting diseases.
I love that you're doing that. And I love that you're talking about food as medicine. And for those of you who think that it isn't, I would challenge you to use a journal and write 30 minutes after your meal, write how you feel. I did that and I was blown away at the certain foods that made me sluggish, tired, overfilled, lack of energy. Food's supposed to fuel your body. It's supposed to give it energy. So when I started removing those things that I read in my journal that were making me feel that way and eating more of the things that gave me the energy and, kept me moving and I didn't feel overly full or bloated, it really changed. I think all of us are different. Some people process carbs really well. Some people don't process them at all. So I think keeping one of those journals is you probably do something like that with your clients.
Absolutely. It's an amazing way to track. Another way, if people really want to see numbers, because some people are very, I want to see the labs, I want to see the numbers. I'll have them even track their blood glucose levels, fasting levels, and then 2 hours post eating to see what the numbers look like. And they're shocked. They're like, well, no wonder I'm so tired. My blood glucose bottomed out or it went sky high. And you can't have good energy if your blood sugar's up and down all the time. And so it's really nice, I think, for some people to see it on paper, then they start making the connection, because after, an hour after we eat, we don't think, oh, it was the food that's making me sluggish. I'm just I'm just tired. That's it. No one makes the connection. So
I think it's funny because you're absolutely right. Some people have to see it on paper because it validates them. Yeah. And here's a funny thing. Your body is so amazing that intuitively you already know the answer. Like you get those little whispers of like something's not right. I feel different. And then if you ignore it, then you start getting those symptoms, right? You start getting those little light symptoms. And then if you keep ignoring it, pretty soon you've got a full blown something going on. So your body's already telling you. And I love numbers too. I have to see them. I think in type A personality where I have to compartmentalize and put them right here. Here's the thing about those numbers. It's only the picture of your window right at that moment. You could do something 2 hours later, it changes that whole picture. So you could be doing stuff right now to change that whole picture without those lab works. So I do think it's a really great starting point. I get my labs drawn regularly because of my illness. And I'm always excited when they tell me everything looks good. But I already knew that because I listen.
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the process too, is sort of honing those intuitive skills that we've become so separate from. Children are very intuitive beings. And then we sort of, it's not even that they grow out of it, but society just sort of tells them that, it's not really important. It's important what's on paper and, math and science, and intuition is sort of this, woo-woo thing that we, don't need. And part of my work with clients is just getting them to tap back into that intuition, because they know, I'll say, okay, what do you think? Let's start with this supplement. And they kind of have this feeling like, oh, maybe it's not the right one for me. Then it's probably not. The same thing with food. Oh, I don't think that food's going to go well for me. Then it probably won't. We have this crazy intuition, and we just have to learn how to utilize that in the healing process. And the people that can utilize it, they heal so much faster.
One of the things I see all the time as well is people saying they get those, they're intuitive. They know something's not right, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time to not be feeling well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go see my doctor. I'm not going to follow up. I'm not going to take the extra steps. I'm going to ignore it because maybe it'll go away. And rarely does it go away. It usually keeps climbing into something more.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
take the time, definitely take the time for your health. You're worth it. You deserve it. And you need to be here, right? To take care of the people that love you and, start creating those amazing memories. If people want to work with you, how do they connect with you?
So they can go to my website. It's www.twopurplecarrots.com. And soon I'm going to be starting a subscription program as well, where I've created hundreds of videos to help people work through different diagnoses they might have, different detox strategies. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully that's launching next month. And then I'm on Instagram at 2purplecarrots as well.
I love it. But I have to ask you, why 2 purple carrots?
Everybody asks that. So it kind of has two meanings. One, I really started with nutrition in the very beginning. And so I wanted something nutritionally related. And now, since I've grown over the years and do really complex chronic illness, I sort of view the purple carrot as sort of the unusual carrot, the one you don't see very often, but it's also the prettier carrot, right? Purple carrots are much more beautiful than the orange carrots. And so that's how I think about individuals with complex chronic illness, that they're sort of, different, but more beautiful carrots. And the two of us will work together.
Every time I ordered roasted vegetables and they come and the carrots are the green and the purple, you see it, it's like, ooh, it's like a little surprise. It tastes the same, but all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I got a purple carrot. So I love it. Thank you so much, Lauren, for being on the show today. I think you're amazing. You guys,
thank you so much.
We're going to put all of her links to connect with her in the show notes so that you can go and check out her space and learn more about her 2 purple carrots and why you should be taking better care of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Oh My Health There Is Hope podcast. Make sure to visit Jana's website, bestholisticlife.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Google Play, or listen there, so you'll never miss an episode. While you're at it, if you found value in the show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you simply tell a friend about the show. That'll help too. Let's change the world together, one health expert at a time. Looking forward to seeing you next time.